My name is Frank. I am 84 years old, and for 84 years I was a militant atheist who laughed at the idea of God. I didn't just disbelieve, I despised religion. I thought it was a virus of the mind, a crutch for weak people who couldn't handle the cold, hard facts of the universe. I lived my entire life convinced that science was the only truth, that morality was just a biological survival mechanism, and that when we die, we simply rot in the ground. I was arrogant. I was proud. And 3 months ago, I died in my study, fully expecting to fade into eternal blackness. Instead, I stood in front of a living, breathing God who showed me that my good life was nothing but filthy rags. I am making this recording because I was sent back with a warning for every good person watching this who thinks they don't need a savior. I'm here to tell you that you are sleeping on railroad tracks and the train is coming. You think you are safe because you are nice. You think you are safe because you recycle and pay your taxes. I am here to tell you that nice does not save you from the fire. I want you to understand exactly who I was. So, I'm not some religious nut who grew up in a cult. I was a man of logic. I was a professor of philosophy for 45 years. I spent my career dismantling the myths of the Bible in front of thousands of students. I took a sick kind of pride in taking a young Christian student fresh out of high school and using logic to destroy their faith by the end of the semester. I thought I was doing them a favor. I thought I was liberating them from superstition. I was also what society calls a pillar of the community. I was a philanthropist. I gave to charities. I sat on the board of the local library. I was faithful to my wife, Sarah, for 50 years until she passed. I never cheated. I never stole. I never killed anyone. I looked at the criminals on the news and thought, thank goodness I'm not like them. I relied on my own righteousness. I thought, if there is a God, which there isn't, surely he will appreciate a man of my intellect and moral standing. I lived in a bubble of self-righteousness. I didn't need Jesus because I didn't think I was sick. Why would I go to a doctor if I'm not sick? That was my logic. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, October 12th. I was sitting in my library, reviewing a manuscript for a new book I was writing. Ironically, a book about the history of human superstition and how we needed to evolve past it. The sun was coming through the window. It was a beautiful fall day. I felt a tightness in my chest. I ignored it. I was 84. Things ache. You get used to it. But then the tightness turned into a vice grip. It felt like an iron band was being tightened around my ribs. I dropped my pen. I tried to stand up to get to the phone, but my legs gave out. I fell to the rug. The pain was excruciating, radiating down my left arm. I gasped for air, but my lungs wouldn't fill. And then quite suddenly the pain stopped. The panic stopped. The noise of the world stopped. My chin hit the chest, and I was gone. Now, based on my worldview, I expected nothing. I expected the screen to cut to black. I expected simply to cease existing. No Frank, no thoughts, just biology breaking down. That is not what happened. I was suddenly standing in the corner of the room. I looked down and saw an old man slumped on the floor. He looked pathetic. His skin was gray. His mouth was open. It took me a second to realize, that's me. That's Frank. My first thought was purely analytical. Fascinating. Consciousness persists after biological death. The dualists were right. The materialists were wrong. I wasn't afraid yet. I was intrigued. I was still the professor, analyzing the data. I thought, well, if I am a spirit, I am free. I can go explore the universe. I can see the cosmos. But then the room began to fade. The books, the desk, the sunlight, It all dissolved into a gray mist, and the mist began to darken. I wasn't floating up into the clouds. I was sinking. I found myself standing in a place I can only describe as the outer darkness. It wasn't a cave. It was a void. It was the complete absence of everything good. There was no light, no sound, no wind, and the feeling was absolute, crushing isolation. On Earth, you are never truly alone. Even in a quiet room, you have the hum of electricity, the sound of a bird outside, the feeling of the floor beneath you. You are connected to God's creation, even if you don't acknowledge Him. But here, God had withdrawn His presence completely. And without God, there is no life. There is no light. There is no hope. I stood there in the absolute blackness, and for the first time in 84 years, I felt the true state of my soul, without my body, without my titles, without my bank account, without the praise of my peers. I was empty. I was a husk. Then I felt them. I didn't see demons with pitchforks. That is a cartoon. I felt entities, ancient, cold, malevolent intelligences surrounding me in the dark. They were mocking me. They didn't speak with voices. They spoke directly into my mind. They whispered, "Here is the professor. Here is the genius. He knows everything, doesn't he? Look at him now. He is nothing." I tried to fight back with my intellect. I shouted into the void. I demanded to be treated with respect. I lived a good life. I helped people. I gave to the poor. I demand to see the manager of this reality. The darkness laughed. It sounded like dry leaves scraping on concrete. One of them whispered, "You have your reward, Frank. You wanted the praise of men? You got it. They put your name on a plaque at the library. They gave you tenure. That is all you get. You invested all your currency in a world that burned up. You have no currency here." That terrified me. It hit me like a physical blow. I realized that everything I did on earth, the charity, the kindness, the good deeds, I did for me. I did it to feel superior. I did it to build my reputation. I was the god of my own little world, and now that world was gone. I felt a pulling sensation. I was sinking. The darkness was getting heavier, pressing against me like deep water. I knew instinctively that if I sank any lower, I would cross a line of no return. I was drifting away from the source of life forever. And in that moment, my arrogance broke. My intellectual pride shattered into a million pieces. I realized that being a nice guy is absolutely useless when you are facing the justice of eternity. It's like trying to pay for a house with monopoly money. It doesn't matter how much monopoly money you have. It's not legal tender in the real world. My morality was counterfeit currency. I cried out. I didn't say a fancy prayer. I didn't quote a philosopher. I just screamed like a frightened child. I was wrong. I was wrong. Don't leave me here. Help me. I didn't call on the universe. I didn't call on energy. I called out to the only name that I had spent 40 years mocking, the name I tried to erase from my students' minds. I whispered, "Jesus." And instantly the darkness was ripped apart. It wasn't a gentle light. It was a violent explosion of glory. It was a light so bright, so pure, so heavy that it felt like it had physical mass. It slammed into the void and pushed the shadows back like a nuclear wind blowing away smoke. I fell on my face. I couldn't look at it. The purity of that light was painful. It was like exposing a dirty film to the sun. It revealed every speck of dirt on my soul. I felt my shame burning me. And then, he was there. I didn't see a face at first. I saw feet. I saw feet that looked like burnished bronze, glowing with heat, and I saw the scars. He pulled me up. He didn't ask permission. He lifted me to my feet, and I was forced to look at him. He wasn't the gentle, passive Jesus I had mocked. He was terrifying. He was the judge of the earth. His eyes were like flames of fire. He looked at me, and I felt him scanning every second of my 84 years. He saw every thought I ever had. He saw every secret motive. I tried to stammer out my defense again. I fell back on my old habit. I said, "Lord, I was a good man. I didn't know. I was a scholar. I needed proof, but I was good. I loved my wife. I helped the poor." He looked at me, and with a voice that sounded like rushing water, he said, "Frank, let us look at your goodness." And then the life review began. But it wasn't what I expected. I expected a highlight reel of my charity. I expected him to show me the time I helped the neighbor shovel snow, or the time I donated $10,000 to the scholarship fund. Instead, he showed me the truth behind my actions. He peeled back the skin of my deeds and showed me the rotten core. He showed me the day I donated that money. I remember feeling so proud that day. I remember the handshake from the dean. I remember walking home thinking, I am a generous man. But Jesus showed me my heart in that moment. He showed me a black, oily substance wrapping around the check. He showed me that my thought wasn't, I hope this helps the students. My thought was, I hope they spell my name right on the building. I hope Professor Jenkins sees this and feels small. I hope this secures my legacy. Jesus looked at me and said, "That was not love, Frank. That was vanity. You were buying glory for yourself. You have already received your payment." He showed me my classroom. He showed me a moment from 1995. A young girl, Sarah, tried to argue for her faith in my class. I humiliated her. I used my vocabulary and my position of power to make her look stupid in front of her peers. I saw her crying in the hallway later. I felt a smug satisfaction that I had won the debate. Jesus showed me Sarah's heart in that moment. He showed me the wound I inflicted on her spirit. He showed me that I crushed a child of God just to feed my own intellectual ego. He said, "You did not kill with a knife, Frank. You killed with your words. You poisoned the water for those who were thirsty." He went through my life, moment by moment, and every time I thought I had a point in my favor, he turned it over and showed me the selfishness underneath. He showed me that even my altruism was self-serving. I helped people because it made me feel superior. I gave money because it gave me status. I was the god of my own little world, and everyone else was just an extra in the movie of Frank. I stood there, naked and ashamed. My goodness was a pile of rags. It was filthy. I realized that compared to the absolute holiness of God, my morality was a joke. I was a man in a muddy shirt trying to walk into a sterile operating room. I would contaminate everything. I looked at him and said, "Then no one can be saved. If I am not good enough, if a man who tried his best is not good enough, then who is?" He looked at me and his face softened. The fire in his eyes turned to a depth of love that I cannot explain. It was a love that hurt to look at because I knew I didn't deserve it. He said, "You are right, Frank. No one is good enough. That is why I came." He held out his hands. He showed me the holes in his wrists. He showed me the reality of the cross. It wasn't just a story in a book I mocked. It was the pivot point of history. He said, "You have spent 80 years trying to swim across the ocean, Frank. You look at the murderer and say, 'I am a better swimmer than him.' And you are. He drowned at the shore. You made it a few miles out. But Frank, the ocean is 3,000 miles wide. Being a good swimmer does not save you from drowning. You need a boat." That analogy shattered me. I realized that the distance between me and God was infinite. My good deeds got me a few inches closer, maybe, But the gap was impossible. I needed a bridge. I needed a savior. He told me, good people do not go to heaven because there are no good people. There are only sinners who admit they are drowning and sinners who pretend they can swim. Only those who grab my hand are pulled into the boat. I fell to my knees and I wept. I wept for the 84 years I had wasted on my own pride. I wept for the arrogance. I wept because I realized that he had been chasing me my whole life. He was there in the mathematics I studied, but I ignored the mathematician. He was there in the love of my wife, but I didn't thank the author of love. I said, Lord, I am sorry. I am so sorry. I have nothing to offer you. I am an old man with empty hands and a heart full of pride. He put his hand on my head. He said, empty hands are the only thing I can fill. I felt a peace wash over me that was deeper than sleep. It was the peace of being forgiven. It was the peace of knowing that I didn't have to perform anymore. I didn't have to be the brilliant professor. I didn't have to be the good citizen. I just had to be his son. I wanted to stay. Oh God, I wanted to stay. I was tired. I wanted to rest in that light forever. I wanted to ask him a million questions about the universe. But he stepped back. He looked at me with urgency. He said, you must return. I begged. No, Lord, please, I'm 84. I have nothing left down there. My wife is gone. My body is failing. Let me stay. He shook his head. You have to warn them. There are millions like you, Frank. Millions of good men and good women who are walking straight into the darkness because they think their resume will save them. They are sleeping in a burning house. He showed me the world. He showed me the universities, full of brilliant minds that were darkened by pride, leading young people astray just like I did. He showed me the neighbors who think that because they mow their lawn and don't commit crimes, they are entering the kingdom. He said, go back and tell them that the standard is not decency. The standard is perfection. And only I can give them that. Tell them that the exam is over and they have all failed, but I have paid the tuition. He told me one last thing. He said, and the time is short, Frank. You are living in the twilight of the age. Do not waste the time you have left. Then he touched my chest. It felt like a lightning strike. I gasped. My eyes flew open. I was back in my study. The manuscript was on the floor. The sun had moved across the rug. I was soaked in sweat. My heart was hammering in my chest like a trapped bird. I tried to stand, but I was too weak. I crawled to the phone and called 911. When the paramedics arrived, they said I had suffered a massive cardiac event. They couldn't believe I was conscious. They couldn't believe I was alive. That was 3 months ago. I know my time is running out. I can feel my heart weakening every day. The doctors tell me I have congestive heart failure. They talk about medications and surgeries. I just smile at them. I'm not afraid of dying anymore. I know who is waiting for me. I know the light is real. But I am terrified for you. I am making this video for the man who thinks he doesn't need God because he returns his shopping cart and tips the waiter 20%. I am talking to the woman who thinks she is safe because she votes for the right party and recites a creed she doesn't understand. I am talking to the intellectual who thinks the Bible is a fairy tale for the uneducated. Listen to an old man who has seen the other side. Your goodness is a lie. It is a costume you wear to impress other people. Underneath, you are just as broken, just as selfish, and just as lost as the criminal in the cell. The only difference is that the criminal knows he needs a lawyer. You think you can represent yourself in the high court of heaven. You will lose that case. I promise you, you will lose. You cannot argue with omniscience. You cannot hide from the light. God does not want your resume. He wants your repentance. He doesn't want your good deeds. He wants your heart. Stop comparing yourself to your neighbor and saying, "I'm better than him." Compare yourself to Jesus Christ and see how far you fall short. That is the only comparison that matters. I wasted 84 years, 84 years of pride, 84 years of patting myself on the back while I walked toward the edge of a cliff. I almost dragged my soul into hell because I was too proud to say thank you. Don't make my mistake. You don't have 80 years. You might not have 80 minutes. Death comes like a thief. It comes when you are reading a book. It comes when you are driving a car. It comes when you are sleeping. Drop the act. Drop the good person mask. Fall on your knees and admit that you are drowning. Reach out your hand. He is there. He is waiting. He loves you with a love that will burn the pride right out of you and leave you whole. But you have to ask. You have to get in the boat. My name is Frank. I was a good man, and it almost sent me to hell. Now I am a saved man, and that is the only title I want. God bless you. And please, wake up before the sun goes down.